friends, welcome to another episode of Killingly Public Library's craft videos. Today we're going to make a shadow box with a piece of cardstock. My cardstock is 8.5 by 11. I've gone ahead and scored the cardstock where I need the scoring. If you don't have a scoring tool, you could use a ruler and maybe the tip of a pencil, or like the back of a butter knife, or a pen without the ink coming out of it. Anything that will score down a line on your paper. And I'm not sure if you can see, I've gone ahead and added some pencil marks into my score lines just so that you could perhaps see it a little easier in the video. So I have score lines going this way, down both sides, and also across the bottom. For me, it was easier to just take and turn the paper a quarter of a turn every time I wanted to make the score marks, so that it was easier to figure out. I didn't have to really do any math trying to, go in from one side or the other. There is a pattern to the lines, the scores. My first score is in at 1/2 inch, so you're going to go in 1/2 inch and score down or across from your edge. So go in 1/2 inch. Then the next score mark here is at a quarter from that half mark, so that's at 3/4 inch. Then we're going to go another 1/2 inch, so this space here is another 1/2 inch, making this score line, if you're using a ruler, at 1¼ inches. And then the final score line here is another 1/4 inch from this one, making it at 1½ inches on your ruler. Then just turn and do the same on this side. Go in 1/2, then 3/4, then 1¼ and then 1½. And once you have all of those scored, we're going to take and cut the corners where the score lines meet. So right here, we're going to take the scissors and we're going to cut where they intersect and get rid of that little corner of the paper. So like so. Okay, does that make sense? And we're going to do that to all 4 corners. You're just removing the part where the lines are intersecting and going over each other. All right, my corners have all been removed. You should have a shape something like this. Now what I'm going to do is measure on the long sides here. I'm going to measure in 1/2 inch and just draw a line, and then measure in 1/2 inch on this side and draw a line. And I'm going to do the same at the other end. All right, I made these lines a little darker so that hopefully it was visible better on the camera for you. So you can see I've gone in 1/2 inch on each of the ends here, and just I drew a line, but I stopped where the last score mark was. I didn't go into our blank space. You could, I suppose it wouldn't show, depending what you're going to do with your space. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make like a trapezoid type shape, I suppose is the best way to explain it. We're going to start at the outside corner of the first little kind of square that you've made between your, let's see if I show it with draw my lines a little darker from my score marks here. Okay, so I drew the score mark lines a little darker, so hopefully that helps you understand what I'm doing a little bit. So I'm going to draw a line from this corner to right here at the top of that score mark. And it's kind of, so there's kind of like a little square right here. It's going to cut that square in half. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this score mark here, and go this way. So let me do that and show you. I'll just mark it with a pencil and you can see what I'm talking about. Does that visual help a little bit better so you can see and understand what it is I'm trying to say that I'm kind of having difficulties getting out? So this is kind of a trapezoid type shape. So there's the parallel line here and the parallel here, and we've got these angled lines coming in, and we're going to snip on the lines that we just drew and then across this score mark here and then out the other line that you drew. So you're going to have something like that, if you can see that really well. Okay. We're going to do the same thing to this side and each of these as well. Start at the outer edge and go in, and the same at the next larger section of score marks from the outer edge in. You have your two wider sections that are angling in towards this narrower band here. So there, I've cut all 4 of these sections out of my cardstock, and this is what I'm left with. Now it's pretty easy and simple. You're just going to fold all of your score marks in so that we can fold this over and make our shadow box. So see, this is just all folded and it's going to just all roll up and you'll get something like that. Okay, and I'm just going to keep going. So there, I've done all of my folding, just kind of bending all of those score marks so that it's going to fold in and glue for us really easy. But before I want to glue it down, I have pre-printed just a little spring saying and some flowers, and you could do whatever you like. Maybe you are a calligrapher and you want to do something by hand, or maybe watercolor painting is something you like to go ahead and watercolor paint some pretty flowers or whatever. Anything you want to put in your shadow box. I just went with a spring saying that April is the gateway to the joys of summer, and this is a quote by Fennel Hudson. And I put in some flowers, and I'm just going to place this in, and I'm just going to add a little smidge of glue just in the very edges so that it's not in the middle here showing through, but in the edges where this will be folded over, and it would probably be enough to kind of hold it in place, but just to be safe, I'm going to add a little bit of glue. So the part that is not folded here on my cardstock is 5.5 this way and 8 inches this way. And if you wanted to have a different size opening, you could, well, the opening will be a smidge smaller. Once these are folded in, it will cut some of that off. But if you wanted to have even a smaller space here, you could change the measurements on this, maybe do like 5/8 and 3/8, and it gets a little trickier to think about, but I mean, that's totally up to you, and that would shrink it down. But anyway, so I'm just going to glue this in a little bit, and hopefully I printed this well enough that my print is still going to show. I wasn't really thinking about that too well, I guess. I'm just going to put a little glue along the edge. So So next we're going to take and finish folding these all. I know we've kind of bent them and made the scores a little, burnished, but now we're going to fold it all up. And the corners where the trapezoids are, these will interlock in place into that corner like so. And after you're done, you can just kind of sneak your glue bottle in there and dab a little glue to just be sure that it does stay snug and secure. So there's our little shadow box frame. And you can certainly get creative and come up with ways to hang it if you want to hang it on the wall, or it will just, I'm sure it'll just prop up on a shelf like so. But if you want to get fancy and make a little back for it where it'll stand up on its own, you certainly can do that. You could even get some transparent film to put over the top if you wanted to make it more like a picture frame, and then you could do a couple of things. If you wanted it to be on the top here so that there you have the shadow box effect, you could glue it down and then decorate with some ribbon or any kind of beads or anything you can think of to just give it a little flair to hide that edge of those sheets. And then also you could actually stick it on top of the paper before you roll down your edges and glue them down, so that would be flush with this. So a couple of things, if you wanted to do that, I'm just going to leave mine like it is. You could also use different color cardstock as well, and that would jazz it up a bit too, but I think it looks pretty good like it is. Be careful when you're gluing if you have some pencil marks. That graphite rubs off on your fingers and then the glue gets kind of yucky. So you could, make a mess and then you've kind of ruined the project. So then you'd have to cover it with ribbon or beads or, whatever you can find. But I hope you have fun with our craft today. Please send your finished projects to me at info@killinglypl.org. I would love to see them. Thanks so much for joining me today. And until next time, have a great day.